An Englishman's home is his castle, so they say. But the way the housing market is going, that Englishman or woman will be well into their 40s before they get the keys to the most modest of homes. The latest statistics show that house prices are rising 5 times as fast as earnings. No wonder Ed Miliband sees valuable votes in generation rent. Here's Andy Verity.
If you thought we'd always been a nation of homeowners, you'd be wrong. 100 years ago, less than a quarter of us owned our homes. Middle-class families rented with no shame. In the 80s, greater home ownership was supposed to be the future. But after years of building far too few homes and letting prices rise much faster than incomes, it's looking like the past.
Every time house prices rise, it makes inequality worse. That's because those who have less property than they need have to spend more and more money buying the same goods. It's only those who have more property than they need who are in a position to downsize and bank their gains. The more property they have, the more they'll gain. House price rises are a redistribution of wealth upwards, from young to old and from poor to rich.
But what we've seen over generations is the failure of many governments to build more homes. And that's the fundamental problem we face. And what that's meaning, the report shows today, that if we don't do this, if we don't tackle this problem now, within a generation, house prices will have quadrupled to nearly an average of £900,000. And we could see up to half of young people, up to 30, living at home. So that's why we have to act now.
Quadruple? I can almost hear your lack of shock. But should we be used to it? In 1971, the average house would cost you less than £6,000. Now, it's £250,000. If shop prices had risen at that speed, a carton of milk would now cost you £10.48, a chicken just over 50 quid, and a pair of pyjamas £111. While we're supposed to hate shop price inflation, politicians think house price inflation will get them re-elected, because homeowners will feel better off. But if most people feel better off, most people shouldn't.
Suppose you own one of these flats and it's worth, say, £100,000, but your dream home is the house over the road and it's worth £200,000. Then house prices double. The price of the place you're selling's gone up by £100,000. Easy money. But think about what's happened to the price of the place you want to buy. It's gone up, not by... The price rises haven't brought your dream home nearer, they put it further out of reach.
In 1918, long before we became obsessed by the gains we might make on property, 3/4 of people rented. In Germany, nearly half still do.
Once they have rented a place they like, they stay there. Once they have bought a place they like, they stay there. There is much less turnover in the German residential market. So the Germans are fond of their places. They just don't see a point in buying the place.
26-year-old PR consultant Richard Kay rents this 2-bed flat in Hackney with 3 others, but he won't be in it for long. 2 weeks after he moved in, he had the gall to complain about the washing machine.
The landlord said, it's not my problem, it's your problem, either you pay for it or, it just sits there. So we kicked up a fuss about this, and we eventually then received a very long-winded email in which our landlord served us notice 2 weeks in.
Just for complaining about the washing machine?
Yeah.
Private landlord, yeah.
Today, Ed Miliband offered to protect tenants like Richard from eviction for 3 years, cap rises in rents, and stop letting agents charging fees to them.
Generation rent is a generation left ignored and insecure for too long, not under a Labour government.
The opposition leader's initiative risks the wrath of landlords, especially those who want to sell their property in months, not years.
I think the thing that's really spooked my members and spooked potential investors in the private rented sector in this country is the words predictable rents, for which everybody immediately sees rent control. And that's the thing that investors are frightened to death of.
For young people without a relative to help them, the dream of home ownership is fading. Ed Miliband's calculation is that by offering to make renting more secure, he may annoy the landlords, but he'll earn the undying gratitude of Generation Rent.
Andrew Verity. The England football team